in a preseason game, coming off of a season in which the Cowboys led the National Football League in penalties by 11. So it wasn't that close. They were the worst team in regards to penalties in football by a pretty comfortable margin. They tied the team record, playoff record for most penalties in a game in that playoff loss to the San Francisco 49ers with 14 penalties. And right off the bat, coming off of that debacle of a season in regards to penalties, the first preseason game, the Dallas Cowboys commit 17 penalties.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
So, we know that Mike McCarthy has never been the disciplinarian that most are. That's fine. There's just plenty of coaches out there, plenty of great coaches that aren't the discipline, aren't the type of disciplinary coaches maybe we'd like him to be. Andy Reid is the first guy that comes to mind. I mean, matter of fact, we have criticized Andy Reid in the past for maybe not being quite, buttoned up in playoff games. It's cost him some playoff games in Philadelphia and Kansas City. But Mike McCarthy was talking after the game. These Mike McCarthy press conferences, they're funny, man. They're really, really funny. He was talking after the game, talking about, the stats and all that, and how the stats, they can occasionally lie to you, right? Here's what Mike McCarthy said after the game, talking about all the penalties.
Trust me, I look at the statistics through and through and understand, statistics are very important, but they tell you what to look at. They tell you where to look, and but most importantly, how you look at it. So, we can twist those things around as much as we want last year, but we could have did that all offseason. I was available, no one called.
First of all, I don't know what that I was available, nobody called thing is all about. But he said you can twist those any way you want. And I agree. I've said that numerous times in the show about certain stats. Like, you can twist stats any way you want to fit your narrative. I mean, you can do that. I can do that. You can do that. But penalties is different. A penalty's a penalty, okay? And we know there's bad calls, good calls. But I have a hard time believing that the refs made 17 mistakes, okay? So, but this notion, you can twist anything you want in regards to stats. Well, you can, except penalties. It's a direct reflection, direct lack of discipline on the part of Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff. Are we surprised? Of course we're not surprised. Cowboys fans or not. And this goes to something that I've said. I said it at the end of last year. I said it after the Cowboys lost to the Arizona Cardinals the day after New Year's. You can go back and look. I said at the time the Dallas Cowboys don't have that many special players, and most of the other contenders do. But before I even get into that, a lot of people are saying, well, come on, it's the preseason. You're going to have penalties. We know about the preseason. It's a little messy. There's turnovers and there's penalties, and it's not even close to the product that the regular season is. Well, of course not. We all agree with that. But let's think about coaches in the NFL that we would all, for the most part, agree. They're good football coaches. We're talking about Andy Reid. We're talking about Mike Vrabel. We're talking about Mike Tomlin, Kyle Shanahan, John Harbaugh. We all agree, these are really, really good to great coaches. In the preseason, where it is very messy, I agree. You want to know how many penalties these well-coached teams had? Keep in mind, the Cowboys had 17. The Tennessee Titans had 5 penalties. Baltimore Ravens had 6 penalties. The San Francisco 49ers had 6 penalties. The Chiefs, Steelers, and Rams had 2. If you combine Chiefs, Steelers, Rams, if you combine their penalties, that's still about a third of what the Dallas Cowboys committed by themselves. So we know it's no mystery. It's no shock to anybody. Mike McCarthy is not a good, head football coach. We know he was blessed with the great Brett Favre. He inherited Brett Favre when he came into Green Bay and then went right from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. I've said that it doesn't work like that. You don't go from a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback to another first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. That doesn't happen. Okay, Joe Montana to Steve Young. That doesn't happen. But it did in Green Bay, and Mike McCarthy inherited it and has 1 Super Bowl ring and 1 Super Bowl appearance to show for it. Okay, so this isn't a surprise to anybody. Keep in mind, this is the same Mike McCarthy who was talking all about analytics. Remember, he told the Dallas Cowboys, he said in the job interview, he blew the Jones family away. Talking about he was in his basement, for the whole 2019 season, watch every single play of the Dallas Cowboys season. And when a reporter pressed him on it at his introductory press conference, this is what he said.
You said you analyzed every play or watched every play of the entire 2019 season. What is it that you learned from that experience that you think will benefit you most here?
Well, I mean, I need to confess. I mean, I told Jerry I watched every play of the 2019 season, but I wanted the job. So I haven't watched every play of the season, but it was just, I mean, you do what you got to do, right?
So he's also a coach that openly lied to Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys front office. Okay, I've played that clip numerous times. It's not a well-coached football team, and I'm just going to go out and say it right here. I'm just going to go ahead, get this out of the way right now. Considering the fact that this team has no discipline, clearly, the head coach doesn't coach any discipline, clearly, and you add to it what the roster looks like. Dallas Cowboys at best are an average football team. They are extremely lucky that they play in a below-average division. I don't think the NFC East is as bad as it used to be. It's not the NFC least anymore. I think the NFC South is the worst division of football. It's Tampa and a bunch of question marks after that. Philadelphia got better. Dallas, fringe playoff team. Washington, they're fine. Giants are awful. Okay, we know that. It's an average football team in Dallas. Okay, it is. Okay, one of the few special players they have in their offense, Tony Pollard, they don't even use. There was a point in the season where Tony Pollard was averaging 7 yards a carry, and they kept giving it to Ezekiel Elliott over and over and over. Why? Well, he's the bell cow. He makes more money. Or you could give it to the guy who is cheaper, and you're probably going to lose in free agency next year, so at least try and get him as many touches as possible and give yourself an opportunity to be put in second and 4s, not second and 12s. This is an offensive line that is gradually getting worse and worse and worse every single season. Tyron Smith, I think I say it every year, and this year I'm even more confident than ever. Who knows? But this could very well be Tyron Smith's last season. He commits more penalties than ever. Okay? He's the least healthy he's ever been in his career. It's always ankle injuries, back injuries, knee injuries, as some people call those, especially the back and knee injuries. They say that some people call them old man injuries. He's getting up there in age. This is his 12th season as a left tackle. That is a lot of punishment on that one body. So Tyron Smith isn't going to give you 17 games. If he is, he's a shell of himself. Tyler Smith, the first-round pick, the young kid, the kid they just drafted out of Tulsa, showed some real promise in the preseason opener against Denver. Problem was, he committed 2 of the 17 penalties, and he himself was the most penalized player in college football last year. And he goes to a team that had the most penalties in the NFL easily. So it's going to be penalty central at the left guard spot again after the Mr. Holding himself, Connor Williams, who went to Miami. Tyler Biotish is fine. Just average center. He's no Travis Frederick, that's for sure. Zach Martin, still an elite player. I don't think he is what he used to be. And at the right tackle spot, Terrence Steele, who I think is I would put Terrence Steele at left tackle over Tyron Smith. That's just my personal opinion, given what he showed us last year. He's a much better left tackle. He's more comfortable at the left tackle spot than right tackle. The receiving group. Okay, let's just say for the sake of argument, CeeDee Lamb pans out perfectly. He lives up to everything that the Cowboys hoped he would be when they drafted him in the first round in 2020. Let's say CeeDee Lamb pans out. He's a true, bona fide number 1 receiver. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm facing Dallas, okay, just double CeeDee Lamb, double 88. Make James Washington beat me. Make Jalen Tolbert, a rookie, beat me. Make Michael Gallup coming off an ACL beat me. Make Noah Brown beat me. Make Dalton Schultz beat me. So even if CeeDee Lamb pans out to what we really think he could possibly be as a great, top 10 level receiver, okay, double him. It's the problem the Packers had, right? They double Devontae Adams and say, Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, beat us. Robert Tonyan, beat us. And they couldn't. Same problem in Dallas. Defensively, we know Micah Parsons is a top 5 defensive player in the National Football League. He's top 5 defensive player in the National Football League. He can do anything defensively. Anything. If he was a full-time pass rusher, he would have 20 sacks. Michael Strahan's sack record would not just be under, TJ Watt would not be the only guy going after Strahan's sack record at 22.5. Micah Parsons would be in that group too, because you're talking about his physicality, his agility, his size, his strength. Micah Parsons could have 20-plus sacks if he were a full-time pass rusher, but he's a jack of all trades on the defensive side of the ball. Aside from Micah Parsons, who do I trust? DeMarcus Lawrence is one of the most overpaid defensive linemen in football. Okay? You got a linebacking core that has a lot of questions. Jabril Cox, really like the kid. He has had issues staying healthy. Leighton Vander Esch, it's fine. Injuries have kind of robbed him of what he could have been, when the Cowboys took him in the first round in 2018. Anthony Barr, past his prime. There's a reason he was available for the Cowboys to take him in free agency at the beginning of training camp. Defensively, the back end, I have major concerns about. Major concerns about. Anthony Brown is fine, but he'll also have a game like against the Las Vegas Raiders where he commits 4 really poorly timed pass interference penalties. Jordan Lewis is too small. If you and offensive coordinators dial up plays to get him on one of the bigger, more physical receivers, he's toast. Green Bay did it a few years ago. And then Trayvon Diggs. Listen, as a ball hawk, I love Trayvon Diggs. A lot of that comes from the fact that he was a wide receiver. He was recruited as a wide receiver at the University of Alabama, like his brother Stephon Diggs. The problem with Trayvon Diggs is he led the league in picks with 11. But I kept asking this question last year. Why do they keep throwing his direction? Why? A guy who has 11 interceptions either tied or broke the Cowboys' all-time single-season record. Why do they keep going his direction? Because he's a gambler. You know the song, the Kenny Rogers song? Gambler? That's what Trayvon Diggs is. Remember the New England game? Mac Jones, who I'm not a huge fan of, but Mac Jones threw a pick 6 with 3 minutes left that gave the Dallas Cowboys a lead. And it looks like, okay, Dallas has all the momentum. They'll stop New England. The game's over. And what does Mac Jones do? The one thing I've always said about Mac Jones, he's a good football IQ. I just really don't think he has the talent to back it up. But what does Mac Jones do? He went right back at Trayvon Diggs on the very next play and 75-yard touchdown. And it took Dak Prescott doing Dak Prescott things for the Cowboys to win the game from that point forward. He can be taken advantage of. He can be had. So this Dallas Cowboys, it's average. It's an average football team. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. The offensive line is getting worse. The receiving core absolutely got worse in the offseason. The running game, well, they've got a possible star back in Tony Pollard. They don't use him. Micah Parsons is a monster on the defensive side of the ball. I got no questions about him. But the rest of the defensive linemen, they're fine. They're fine. They're good enough to help the Cowboys get to 10-7, which is exactly where I said that they would be. All this thing about the Cowboys having the 4th best odds to win the NFC, it's gibberish. It's crazy. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.